Let me hit you with some facts that your Sunday school teacher probably doesn't know. Christianity was in Africa before it was in Europe. The theological center of early Christianity wasn't Rome, it was Alexandria, Egypt. The monastic movement that shaped all of Christian spirituality started in the Egyptian desert. The guy who gave us the doctrine of the Trinity? African. The man who wrote Confessions, the most influential Christian book outside the Bible? African. But somehow we've been taught that Christianity is a white religion that missionaries brought to Africa. That's not just wrong, it's backwards. Acts 8:26-39 in the Berean Standard Bible tells us one of the first Gentile converts was African. Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Go south to the road, the desert road, that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, an important official in charge of all the treasury of the Kandake, which means queen of the Ethiopians. This guy was reading Isaiah and got baptized on the spot. Christianity was in Ethiopia before Paul even converted. But it goes back further. At Pentecost, in Acts 2:10, Egyptians and Libyans were in the crowd hearing the gospel in their own languages. Simon of Cyrene, the guy who carried Jesus' cross, was from Libya. His sons Alexander and Rufus became known figures in the early church. Mark 15:21 mentions them like everybody knew who they were. The church in Antioch that sent out Paul, led by Simeon called Niger, literally Simeon the Black, and Lucius of Cyrene. Africans were running the missions committee that evangelized Europe. Let's talk about Alexandria, because this city was insane. It had the world's largest library. It was the intellectual capital of the ancient world, and it became Christianity's Harvard, Oxford, and MIT all rolled into one. The Catechetical School of Alexandria, founded around 190 AD, was the world's first theological seminary. Clement and Origen taught there. They developed systematic theology before Europe knew what theology was. The African theologians who shaped Christianity? Let me blow your mind. Athanasius of Alexandria basically saved Christianity from the Arian heresy. Without him, we might all be denying the deity of Christ. Augustine of Hippo, modern Algeria, wrote City of God and Confessions. Every Western Christian theologian since then is basically footnoting Augustine. Tertullian of Carthage coined the term Trinity. Cyprian of Carthage developed our understanding of the church. These weren't peripheral figures, they were the theologians. The Desert Fathers of Egypt created Christian monasticism. Anthony the Great, Pachomius, Moses the Black. Thousands of men and women fled to the Egyptian desert to seek God. Every monastery in the world, every monastic tradition, every contemplative practice traces back to Egypt. When European Christians wanted to get serious about faith, they traveled to Africa to learn from the Desert Fathers. Africa was teaching Europe, not the other way around. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has been continuously Christian since about 330 AD. That makes them one of the oldest Christian communities on earth. They've maintained practices that go back to the 1st century. They have books in their biblical canon that exist nowhere else, like the Book of Enoch and Jubilees. They claim to have the Ark of the Covenant. They've been practicing Christianity longer than almost anyone, but Western Christians act like we discovered them. Here's something that'll mess with your head. When Islam conquered North Africa in the 7th century, it was conquering Christian territory. Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, all Christian. The Coptic Church in Egypt survived and maintains liturgies that might go back to Mark the Evangelist. When Coptic Christians pray the Lord's Prayer in Coptic, they're praying in the last surviving form of the language of the pharaohs. That's continuity. The Kingdom of Nubia, modern Sudan, was Christian for 1,000 years. They had cathedrals, monasteries, and a rich Christian culture. Archaeological discoveries keep finding Christian artifacts all over Africa from the early centuries. This wasn't missionary territory. It was the Christian heartland. When Europe was still pagan, Africa was Christian. When barbarians sacked Rome, African theologians were preserving orthodoxy. But here's what makes me mad. How did we forget this? How did Christianity become seen as a white religion foreign to Africa? Colonialism. When European colonizers came to Africa, they acted like they were bringing Christianity for the first time. They ignored or suppressed indigenous African Christianity. They painted themselves as saviors, bringing light to the dark continent. Meanwhile, Ethiopians had been Christian for 1,500 years. Modern African Christianity is exploding. Over 600 million African Christians today, projected to reach 1 billion by 2050. African missionaries are now going to Europe to re-evangelize it. Nigerian churches are planting congregations in London. Kenyan theologians are teaching in American seminaries. The student has become the teacher. Or maybe the teacher is just remembering they were always the teacher. So, here's your action plan. First, learn actual church history, not the whitewashed version. Read African theologians, ancient and modern. Second, recognize that Christianity has always been multicultural. It's not a Western religion that went to Africa. It's a Middle Eastern religion that went to Africa and Europe simultaneously. Third, respect African Christianity as elder siblings in the faith, not mission fields. They've been doing this longer than most of us. The story of Ham's descendants in Christianity isn't about cursed people receiving the gospel. It's about blessed people who were foundational to the gospel's spread. Without African Christianity, there might not be European Christianity. Without African theologians, we might not have Orthodox doctrine. Without African monks, we might not have Christian spirituality. Africa isn't Christianity's mission field. It's Christianity's motherland, and it's time we started acting like it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.